Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. This is T-Bone logging in with an episode of On the Battlefield. So today, it's tank review time with the little T1 Cunningham, the American Tier 1 light tank. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, you may be asking, T-Bone, why bother reviewing a tank down at Tier 1 when most channels seem to start at Tier 5 and above? Well there, my friends, you have answered your own question. I will be reviewing tanks from all tiers, so all of you who are new to the game can get a feel of what these machines are capable of. Not only will you see these tanks played with my average tank driving skills, but I'll also feature a replay of someone who is more expert than me. As is traditional with all tank reviews, let's look at the stats. The T1 Cunningham has a health pool of 115 hit points, weighing in at 7.81 tons in my configuration. The Cunningham V8 gives the tank 132 horsepower and a power to weight ratio of 16.9 horsepower per ton with a top speed of 41 km per hour. With the second highest hull traverse of 38 degrees per second on the Cunningham E2 tracks, it makes this tank the fastest and one of the most manoeuvrable in its tier. Sounds good so far, right? However, the T1 Cunningham isn't without its weaknesses. The tank trades speed for armour. It is the second worst tank at Tier 1 for armour at 10mm all round from the tracks to the hull, or so you are led to believe. Using the collision model on Tank Inspector does show the majority of the tank is indeed 10mm. There are some notable exceptions. The top of the hull and the turret is a measly 6mm of armour. The best armour on this tank is the gun manlet at 15mm and the tracks adding the equivalent armour value of 16mm from the tracks. So what about the guns? Well, there are 4 choices available on the T1. The ones we are most interested in are the 20mm Hispano-Suiza machine gun and the 37mm Browning semi-automatic autocannon. The 20mm Hispano-Suiza machine gun has an average penetration and damage of 30mm and 12 hit points with standard ammunition. It will fire 15 shells in a clip, pumping out a shell every 0.1 seconds with a reload time of 10.9 seconds per clip, giving this gun a potential of 878 damage per minute. The gun isn't very accurate though at 0.5, with a good aiming time of 1.9 seconds. As a result, it works best at short to medium range. The 37mm Browning semi-automatic autocannon has an average penetration damage of 39mm and 30 hit points with standard ammunition. It will fire 5 shells in a clip, pumping out a shell every 0.5 seconds with a reload time of 8 seconds, giving this gun a potential 900 damage per minute. The gun has slightly better accuracy at 0.47, with a longer 2.5 second aiming time which resets after every shot. So despite the rate of fire when loaded, it is best to be patient and wait for the gun to re-aim. Even at short range, it is possible to miss if you don't do this. It is possible to snipe from medium to long range, but if you get spotted, you won't last very long at all. Speaking of spotting in the T1 Cunningham, it has a view range of 280 meters, which is average for its tier. It can be improved on using coated optics or binoculars, but I'd only add additional equipment to the tank if you're planning on keeping it. With the SCR 200 radio, the signal range will increase from 90 meters to 265 meters, which on smaller maps is okay, but you will lose contact with your team easily on larger ones if you decide to go further ahead than your teammates. If you do decide to keep this tank, then the options realistically will be to increase the camera rating of the tank using a camera net and add view range enhancements. This could be either binoculars or coated optics depending upon your playstyle. In my opinion, the third slot could be either for a gun laying drive to reduce aiming time, or vents to improve all crew skills and how the tank performs. As for crew skills, it is unlikely you will have a 100% crew for this tank when you start the game, If you do, I'd consider going for camouflage to reduce your camo rating even further. With all that discussed and out of the way, let's get on the battlefield and see how this thing drives in my hands. So here we are on Mines in a very tier 1 game. I'm currently platooned up with Kind of Blue Bone in a medium 1 and Han W, who's very new to the game, in another T1 as well. So at the start of the game, I decide to head over to the western flank and communicate that to the rest of my platoon, as we don't currently have comms available at the moment. So while there is a lull in the action, let me give you a little history about this tank. The T1 Cunningham was designed by James Cunningham, Son and Company, based in Rochester, New York in 1922. It continued to be developed up to 1928, with the designations T1E2 and T1E4, with prototypes produced up to 1934. However, it was never used in active service, with the remaining prototype preserved at Fort Lee in Virginia. That's enough history, now back to the action. So I made it over to this little island. The only enemy that's currently spotted is the T1 just on the hill, which is probably where most of the tanks will congregate. But the first target sighted for me is the LOL tractor in front. So I decide to park up next to this rock, get myself nicely pre-aimed, ready for this tank to come in front of me. But little do I know what's going on around the corner. So while the LOL tractor gets bounced, the T1 cliff dives, loses 2/3 of its health, tries to push the LOL tractor out. The LOL tractor's not sure who to fire at this moment, but as the shots bounce, the T1 gets destroyed. So I think this is story time, so are you sitting comfortably? Let's begin. This is the story of Larry the Lemming. Larry was a versatile lemming and recently had added tank driving to the list of his talents. Larry loved driving tanks. However, there were occasions when natural lemming tendencies would let Larry down. As he drove the tank on mines, he spotted a cliff.
"Let's go!"
said Larry as he planted his right paw on the accelerator. The tank hurtled towards the cliff. Larry was sure he could kill the enemy tank at the bottom of the cliff by doing this.
"Yippee!"
Screamed Larry in excitement as the tank went airborne. He loved the sensation of being in mid-air, especially as it was in slow motion. Larry folded up his tray table, adjusted his seat upright. With his seatbelt firmly fastened, he prepared for landing. Little did Larry know that his plan was foolhardy.
"Ah!"
Screamed Larry as the little T1 crashed into Hans's LOL tractor. Lots of warning lights flashed in Larry's tank as it was severely damaged by the impact.
Was war das?
Hans asked. He was not very impressed with Larry's efforts. As his tank bounced shot after shot from the enemy, Hans turned his turret towards Larry.
"Oh no!"
Exclaimed Larry as Hans's gun took aim before destroying Larry's tank. Larry was saddened about this and promised himself to go and see a therapist to try and stop him from cliff diving again. So as the music fades, let's get back to the more serious business of actually commentating on this game. Oh dear. So I'm coming up to this bush. I can see an NC-31. So I use the concealment, and between me and the LOL tractor, that NC-31 is toast. Okay, what's next? Well, let's get the speed and manoeuvrability of this little tank and put it to good use. So I decide to move up, with the LOL tractor following behind in a moment. You can see my platoon mates are slowly moving up the hill, with Han currently covering the rear. And I spot an R-Otsu as my next victim. Mind you, it would help if he pointed the gun in the right direction. He's clearly tunnel visioned onto that flank. The R-Otsu is going to pay for that. So I'll back off for a moment. Allow this lol tractor to move up with me, and I spot an MS1. The MS1 is doing a nice job of flanking fire, but hasn't noticed me just yet. Until he comes up to this rock, and Sue learns the devastating power of this 20mm machine gun. Now in the process I did take some flanking fire, and now I'm not feeling so clever on 34 health. But still, we're winning 7-2, so we're doing pretty good here. So I'll move up, and I can see that Kind of Blue Bone has destroyed an NC-31. And I spot a medium 1 up on the cliff at the top. So I start putting in a fire. The medium 1 backs off, having damaged his tank quite nicely. So I move across. Ooh, MS1. Let's give this a try. 300 meters. Now, you'll see the inaccuracy of this gun, and a lot of the shots bounce as well, which doesn't help. So the MS1 disappears, and if it's come back in view, give it another try. And the MS1 gets taken out. Ooh, T1. Yes, coming up the hill. Now, come on, reload, reload. Come on, hurry up. Nope, too late, already taken out. So I'll wait here and wait for the reloads before moving up. Now I can see that there's a two lol tractors and 2 T1s left. So let's move up and try and find them. Now the last location they were spotted at was A5. At which point I come up with a cunning plan. So cunning it could probably outwit a fox trying to steal chickens from a barn. I decide instead of going up onto that ridge, I drive forward to the point where I can proximity detect these tanks. And there we go. There's the lol tractor, allowing my team to absolutely decimate this lol tractor. And with that done and winning 12-3, we're doing very well indeed. So I move forward. There's the other lol tractor. There's another T1. So the T1 takes a few shots, he dies, and the next T1, there we go. Kind of Blue Bone takes out a lol tractor and the other T1 dies, and that is how we win the game. Very convincingly indeed. So that game was a second class mastery badge, an Abrams Medal second class, 5 for effect for causing more damage to enemy vehicles than my hit points, and a Bruiser Medal as well. 8,212 credits with 733 experience. We spotted 2 tanks, assisted damaging 5, hit 18 shots and destroyed 2. So with the team scores, I've come sort of top third of the table when it comes to damage, but I've done very nicely on experience. Ended up coming second overall with the team. Kind of Blue Bone does pretty well as well, sort of heading up roughly mid-table with 2 kills, 166 damage. With Fan, well, not doing so well, but she's fairly new to the game, and I'm sure she'll get better as she progresses. So let's take a look at the detailed report. So, 37 shots fired with 18 penetrations, 205 damage, and I ended up receiving 5 hits with 9 not penetrating. You can see that the ammunition cost is negligible, and I still ended up making 15,442 credits with a mission completed as well, which was 7,500. So that completes this game, so let's move on to the next one. So here we go with a replay from Stifler 1289, that's Stifler 1289 in the T1 Cunningham. Now, Stifler 1289 statistics is a 49% win rate, and I think it's something like a 1250 WN8. So he's here on Himmelsdorf, which I will admit, when I first started playing Himmelsdorf, I didn't like this map, but I've actually grown to really like it. Now, he's not the only experienced member on his team. There's also a Unicum player on his side, and there's also some good players on the other side too. So here he is, starting on the south of the map. And by the looks of the way he's turning, he's going up the hill. Yep, indeed he is. Also, it looks like he's pimped out his T1 with binoculars. And he's fitted it with the 20mm machine gun. So as he trundles up the hill, the first spot is a LOL tractor on the 8 line from his team. In fact, his team has split fairly well. I'm not sure why he actually shot at the ground there, but maybe he got a little bit excited. So despite the fact that the T1 is the quickest tank at Tier 1, still trying to get up this hill is quite a chore. As you can see, he's doing about 20 kph at this point. So we're just going to wind the action a little bit further forward until he actually meets an enemy tank. As he comes around the top of the hill, I can see that there's about a third of the enemy team around the 8 line, but where is everybody else? Seems a little bit strange. Oh, how long? T1. Now, has the T1 spotted him? Yes, but auto-aims. And that's the end of that T1, and that's his first kill. So the only support that he's got with him at the moment is the T1 behind him. As he now comes barreling down the hill. Now we can see the speed of this. And he spots an NC-31. Now, has the NC-31 spotted him? Yes, he has, but where was the NC-31 aiming? I mean, I know the guns at Tier 1 are not that accurate, but that was one hell of a lead considering where Stifler's actually is. So, I don't know, but it certainly blows a nice hole into a side of a building anyway. Okay, so auto-aiming at the NC-31 now. Hiding behind this debris. And there's kill number 2. So, all these tanks on the 8 line. Prepare yourself. You're going to be attacked from the rear. Sparty with a medium 1 on very, very low health. And do you think he's got the gun pointing the right way? Of course not. There he goes. So Stifler's now making his way up the 8 line. He's got a LOL tractor to his right, and he's got an NC-31 in front of him. And has also spotted a full health medium 1. So, first victim, LOL tractor from the rear. Thank you very much. So, what's next? Ooh, medium 1. Okay, place your bets, ladies and gentlemen. Which way is the medium 1's gun pointing? Do you think it's actually pointing at Stifler, or do you think he hasn't got a clue? Well, let's see. Oh, guess what? No, try the other way. This way. And there goes the medium 1 into the middle of next week. So he's got a T1 to his right and an NC-31. So he carries on down the 8 line to have a go at this NC-31. Now, so far the scores are pretty even, but look at the amount of devastation here. So the NC-31 spotted him. He's using auto-aim. Lots of bounces, but still the NC-31 is completely obliterated. So that's his top gun already. Okay, enemy T1. So he backs up next to this wall. I don't know what the enemy T1 was thinking, but almost completely oblivious. So Stifler's now waiting behind the building and sees a LOL tractor right in the centre of the square. So the LOL tractor aims and misses. But you can see, even with the amount of shots that Stifler's put in there into the LOL tractor at that point, a lot of them bounce. And this is the thing with this 20mm gun. So he's waiting behind the building again to reload. But the LOL tractor's just not moved at all. And again, there's a LOL tractor that's bitten the dust and has been sent home for an early bath. So that's 8 kills now. So if this was a higher tier game, he'd be on a Radley Walters medal at this point. So they're now going for the reigning tank on the enemy team, who's been reported as AFK. Now, what gets me with this shot? 249 metres. And despite so many shots completely missing the target, he still manages to kill it. So, absolutely fantastic play. So, Stifler 1289, I have to say that was one hell of a replay to watch and commentate on. So, certainly that was a victory. Ace tanker, bruiser medal, fire for effect, top gun. I mean, just take a look at that list. 2/3 of the enemy team he actually managed to damage, as well as take 9 tanks out. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. 16,950 credits in a tier 1. Superb result. Absolutely amazing. When you look at the team scores, he did nearly 700 damage, 9 kills, over 1,000 base experience. Brilliant. Now here's where it's really telling with this particular gun. If you have a look at the detailed report, 132 shots fired, 85 direct hits, 61 penetrations to make 678 damage. So all in all, the enemy team managed to deal some damage to him at 4 penetrations. Even with resupplying the ammunition cost at nearly 400 credits, he still made over 16,500 profit. So, well played. Superbly played. So, the T1 Cunningham is certainly the fastest tank for its tier, with joint second for hull and turret traverse. It is the second lowest armoured vehicle at tier 1, and the guns are about average. As a package though, it is a fun little tank which can do well if the right tactics are used. This would be either using cover to good effect, or putting the speed and the manoeuvrability of this little tank to good use, making yourself a very difficult target to hit. That brings this episode to a close. Join us again on the battlefield. Until next time, take care and enjoy your gaming. This is T-Bone logging off.